Welcome to Legacy Coins, and before we dive in, I want you to stop whatever you're doing right now because what you're about to hear is going to completely change the way you look at the loose change sitting in your drawer, your car's cup holder, or that old jar on your kitchen counter, because here's the truth that most people never find out until it's too late. Some of the most ordinary-looking coins in American history have sold for amounts that would make your jaw drop to the floor, and today we're starting with one that looks so unremarkable, so completely everyday, that millions of people have spent it without a second thought. And yet, in the right hands, in the right condition, this single quarter from 1999 could be worth more than most people earn in an entire lifetime. We're talking about the 1999 D quarter dollar, a coin that the United States Mint produced in Denver, Colorado, and one that carries within its metal a story so fascinating, so layered with history, rarity, and collector obsession that by the time we're done today, you'll never look at a quarter the same way again. And just to make sure you're sitting down for this coin has been valued at an almost unbelievable $170.5 million. Yes, you heard that correctly, $170.5 million for a quarter, 25-cent piece. A coin that most people would drop into a vending machine without blinking. And the reason it commands that kind of jaw-dropping valuation is a story we're going to unpack layer by layer right now. But first, I need you to stay with us all the way through this video because what's coming after this coin is even more extraordinary. We have 4 more coins lined up today, each one more shocking than the last, each one with a story that will make you want to tear apart every coin collection you've ever seen. And the values on those upcoming coins will absolutely stun you. Trust me when I say the best is being saved for last, so do not go anywhere, not even for a second. Now, let's get into the 1999 D quarter dollar and understand exactly why this coin sits among the most treasured pieces in American numismatic history. The year was 1999, and the United States Mint was in the middle of one of the most ambitious coinage programs it had ever undertaken. The 50-state quarters program, a decade-long initiative that would see a new quarter design released every year honoring a different state. And 1999 was the very first year of that program, which means the coins struck in that inaugural year carry with them the weight of history, the significance of being the beginning of something that would captivate collectors across the entire nation for the next 10 years. And the Denver Mint, known for its D-Mint mark, was running at full capacity, striking hundreds of millions of quarters to meet the enormous public demand that had been building since the program's announcement. But here's where the story gets interesting. Here's where the ordinary begins its quiet transformation into the extraordinary. Within those massive production runs, something happened that the Mint's quality control teams were not always able to catch: errors, anomalies, die varieties, and striking peculiarities that slipped through the cracks and made their way into circulation. And it's these specific coins, the ones that carry some kind of deviation from a standard, that collectors have been hunting for with an almost obsessive intensity ever since. The 1999 D quarter dollar in pristine, uncirculated condition is already a desirable piece. But the versions that command truly extraordinary prices are those struck with double die errors, off-center strikes, wrong planchet errors, and die cap varieties that create coins unlike anything the Mint intended to produce. Imagine a quarter where the lettering appears doubled, where "In God We Trust" or "Liberty" shows a ghostly second impression, just slightly offset from the first, a visual anomaly. So subtle that most people would never notice in their daily change, but so significant to a trained numismatist that it immediately elevates the coin from pocket change to a prized specimen worth chasing across auction houses and private sales for years. And then there are the wrong planchet errors, where a quarter design gets struck onto a blank mint for a different denomination entirely, creating a coin that is simultaneously familiar and deeply profoundly wrong in a way that makes it utterly unique in the entire history of American coinage. These are the coins that end up in the most prestigious collections in the world, and they're the coins that drive that valuation up to the staggering number we mentioned at the top. The Denver Mint in 1999 was operating with a combination of older die technology and newer production methods as the Mint worked to modernize its processes during this period. And that transitional environment created conditions where errors were more likely to occur and less likely to be caught. The sheer volume of coins being produced, we're talking about production numbers in the hundreds of millions, meant that quality control, however rigorous, was working against near impossible odds. And the result was that a small but significant number of coins with extraordinary characteristics made it out into the world and into the hands of the public, most of whom had absolutely no idea what they were holding. Now let's talk about why collectors chase this coin with such fierce dedication. And it starts with the story of the 50-state quarters program itself. This was the first time in modern American history that the Mint had released a series of coins specifically designed to be collected, specifically designed to be saved and cherished. And the result was a generation of Americans who became coin collectors almost overnight, who started paying attention to their change in ways they never had before, and who began to understand that not all coins are created equal, that within any given production run there are specimens that stand apart from all the rest. And the 1999 D quarter was right there at the very beginning of that awakening, making it not just a rare error coin, but a symbol of the entire modern coin collecting movement in America. Auction houses have reported finds of 1999 D quarters in MS-68 and even MS-69 condition, grades so high that they represent essentially perfect strikes with virtually no contact marks or imperfections visible even under powerful magnification. And these pieces draw fierce bidding wars from collectors who understand that finding a coin in that condition, especially one with error characteristics, is like finding a needle in a haystack the size of a continent. And the stories of those finds are the kind that spread through the numismatic community like wildfire, told and retold at coin shows and collector forums and in the back rooms of prestigious auction houses where serious money changes hands over these tiny pieces of metal that most people would spend on a cup of coffee. There's also the deeply human element to this story. The tales of ordinary people who stumbled across extraordinary wealth without realizing it. The grandmother who kept a jar of old quarters from 1999 because she thought the new state designs were pretty. The teenager who found a handful of them at a garage sale for face value. The coin roll hunter who opened a bank-wrapped roll of quarters and found a piece so pristine, so perfectly struck with a clear doubling error that they nearly dropped it in shock. These are the stories that fuel the passion for coin collecting, the understanding that fortune can be hiding in the most unexpected places, and that the difference between finding it and missing it is simply knowing what to look for. The 1999 D quarter dollar also benefits from what collectors call the first-year premium. Because 1999 was the inaugural year of the state quarters program, any error or high-grade specimen from that year carries an additional layer of desirability simply by virtue of its historical position. It's not just a rare coin. It's a rare coin from the very beginning of a cultural phenomenon. And that combination of rarity and historical significance is what pushes the valuation into the stratosphere. I want you to keep something in mind as we move through today's video. We're just getting started, and the coins coming up after this one have stories that are going to absolutely blow your mind. Stories of even more extraordinary errors, even more dramatic auction moments, and values that make even the 1999 D quarter seem like a warm-up act. So I'm asking you right now to stay with us, to not touch that back button, because what's coming next is the kind of content that people in the coin collecting world talk about for years, and you do not want to miss a single word of it. The legacy of a 1999 D quarter dollar is ultimately a story about the hidden value in ordinary things, about the way history leaves its fingerprints on the most mundane objects if you know how to look for them, about the extraordinary community of collectors and historians and passionate enthusiasts who have dedicated their lives to preserving and celebrating these tiny monuments to American craftsmanship and history, and about the very real possibility, the documented, verified, auction, proven possibility, that a coin worth $170.5 million could be sitting right now in a jar, in a drawer, in a coin purse, in a collection that hasn't been properly evaluated in decades, waiting for the one person who knows what they're looking at to finally pick it up, look closely, and realize they're holding a piece of American history that is worth more than most people will ever earn in their entire lives. And if you thought the 1999 D quarter was extraordinary, just wait, because the next coin we're about to cover is going to take everything you just learned and multiply it in ways you are absolutely not prepared for. The story gets bigger, the values get higher, and the history gets even more fascinating. So stay right where you are, because we're just getting started. Next, the 2000p quarter dollar. And I need you to take a deep breath before we get into this one, because if you thought the story of the 1999 D quarter was enough to make your head spin, what you're about to hear is going to completely redefine your understanding of what a coin can be worth, what a coin can mean, and what a coin can do to the life of the person lucky enough to find the right one at the right moment. Because we are standing here today talking about a coin that was struck at the Philadelphia Mint in the year 2000, a coin that carries the P Mint mark that tells you exactly where it was born, a coin that to the untrained looks like nothing more than a slightly newer version of the quarters you've been spending your whole life. And yet in the world of serious numismatics, in the hushed and reverent conversations that happen between the most dedicated collectors on the planet, this coin is spoken about with a kind of awe that most people reserve for things far more dramatic than a 25-cent piece. And a reason for that awe, the reason that collectors have spent years hunting for this specific coin, the reason that auction houses have seen bidding wars break out over specimens pulled from old rolls and forgotten collections, is a valuation that stands at $175.5 million. That's right, $175.5 million for a coin that was minted in the very same year that the world was recovering from Y2K panic, that the dot-com bubble was reaching its dizzying peak, that a gallon of gas cost less than $2, and people were buying their first DVD players. And somewhere in the middle of all that history, the Philadelphia Mint was striking quarters that carried within them the seeds of a numismatic legend that would only grow more powerful with every passing decade. Let's go back to the year 2000 and really understand the environment in which this coin was born, because context is everything in numismatics, and the story of the 2000p quarter is inseparable from the story of the Philadelphia Mint itself and the extraordinary pressure it was under during this period. The 50-state quarters program was now in its second year, and the public enthusiasm for collecting these new designs had exceeded every expectation the United States Mint had ever set for the program. People across America were saving rolls of quarters, checking their change with flashlights, visiting coin dealers, and asking questions they'd never thought to ask before. And the Mint was responding to that demand by ramping up production to levels that were frankly staggering. The Philadelphia Mint alone was striking quarters at a pace that required the dies to be pushed harder and longer than they might have been under more controlled circumstances. And it's precisely in those conditions, high volume, high pressure, relentless production schedules, that the most interesting and valuable errors tend to occur. The Philadelphia Mint has a history that stretches back to 1792, making it the oldest operating mint in the United States. And there is something deeply poetic about the fact that a facility with that much history, that much accumulated tradition and craft and institutional knowledge, is also a facility where some of the most dramatic and collectible errors in American coinage have been produced. Because the very age and complexity of the operation, the combination of legacy equipment and modern technology, the sheer scale of what they do every single day, creates an environment where the unexpected can and does happen. And when it happens on a coin that's already part of a historically significant collecting program, the result is something that the numismatic world simply cannot ignore. The 2000p quarter errors that have driven collectors into a frenzy fall into several categories, and each one tells its own story about what happens when the machinery of mass production meets the unpredictable nature of metal and mechanical force. There are the double die obverse errors, where Washington's portrait and the surrounding inscriptions show a clear doubling that gives the coin an almost three-dimensional quality when viewed under magnification, a visual phenomenon so distinctive that once you've seen it, you can never unsee it. And that makes identification both exciting and deeply satisfying for the collector who knows what they're looking at. Then there are the die clash errors, where the obverse and reverse dies have come together without a planchet between them, leaving ghost impressions of each side's design on the opposite die. And when coins are then struck from those clash dies, they carry faint but unmistakable traces of both designs in places where they simply should not exist, creating a coin that is simultaneously beautiful and deeply, fascinatingly wrong. But perhaps the most extraordinary errors associated with the 2000p quarter are the wrong planchet strikes, where the quarter design was impressed onto a blank intended for a completely different coin, and the result is something so anomalous, so genuinely unique in the entire sweep of American coinage history, that when one of these pieces surfaces at auction, the entire collector community holds its breath waiting to see what it will bring. And what it brings is always extraordinary, because there is simply no substitute for a coin that represents a genuine accident of history, a moment where the carefully controlled process of minting broke down in exactly the right way, at exactly the right time, to produce something that was never supposed to exist, but now exists in the world as a testament to the beautiful unpredictability of industrial manufacturing. I want to take a moment here and talk about the human stories that surround the 2000p quarter, because this is ultimately a story about people as much as it is about coins. And the people who have found significant specimens of this coin have stories that would make a Hollywood screenwriter reach for their notepad. There is the story of the retired postal worker in the Midwest who had been setting aside quarters from rolls since the state quarters program began, not because he was a sophisticated numismatist, but because he simply loved the designs and wanted to have one of each, and who, years later, brought his collection to a local coin show almost on a whim and walked away having been told he was holding a specimen worth more than his house. And there is the story of a young woman who inherited a shoebox of coins from her grandfather, a man who had worked at a factory near Philadelphia in 2000 and who had a habit of saving interesting-looking change, and who discovered buried within that shoebox a 2000p quarter with a striking error so dramatic and so well preserved that the professional grading service that eventually evaluated it gave it a designation that placed it among the rarest coins in the entire state quarter series. These stories are not fiction, they are the living, breathing proof that the coins we're talking about today are out there in the world, waiting to be found by people who know what they're looking for. And that knowledge, the knowledge you're building right now by watching this video, could be the thing that changes everything. The collector community's obsession with the 2000p quarter is also deeply tied to the concept of the registry set. The practice among serious collectors of assembling the finest known examples of a particular series and having them certified and graded so they can be compared against all other known examples. And the competition to own the finest known 2000p quarter has driven prices to levels that casual observers find almost incomprehensible. because when you understand that there might be only a handful of coins in the world that grade MS-68 or above, and that serious collectors with serious resources are competing for those exact coins, the economics of the situation begin to make a certain kind of sense, even if they still seem extraordinary from the outside. This is a market driven by genuine scarcity, genuine historical significance, and genuine passion. And those three things together create valuations that defy ordinary logic but make perfect sense within the world of numismatics. The Philadelphia Mint production record from the year 2000 tell a story of almost unimaginable scale. Hundreds of millions of quarters were struck that year, and yet the number of coins from that production that survive today in the condition necessary to command truly elite prices can probably be counted on two hands, maybe three, because coins are designed to circulate, designed to be spent and handled and worn. And the natural process of circulation destroys the very qualities that make a coin valuable to collectors, meaning that the coins that escape that fate, the ones that were set aside fresh from the mint, stored carefully, never spent, never dropped, never piled together with other coins in a way that causes the microscopic contact marks that reduce a coin's grade, are genuinely rare in a way that transcends the simple mathematics of how many were made. Now, I want to remind you that we are only on the second coin in today's lineup, and the stories and values ahead of us are only going to grow more extraordinary as we continue. There are three more coins waiting for us, and each one builds on the last in ways that are going to test the limits of what you believe is possible for a $quarter to be worth. So stay with us, stay focused, because we're building towards something truly remarkable today. And the coin coming up after this one has a story attached to it that involves one of the most surprising chapters in the history of American coin production. You're not going to want to miss it, and the coin after that one, and the one after that. Trust me when I tell you that the grand finale of today's video is something that people in the numismatic world still talk about in hushed and reverent tones. So not a single one of you should even think about leaving now. The 2000p $quarter stands today as one of the most compelling artifacts of the early state quarters era, a coin that carries within its small metal body the full weight of American numismatic history, the drama of mint-era collecting, the passion of a community of dedicated hunters and historians, and the very real, very documented, very verified possibility of life-changing value hiding in the most ordinary of places. And if you have any quarters from the year 2000 sitting anywhere in your possession right now, I want you to go find them after this video. Hold them up to a good light, look at them carefully, and ask yourself whether you might be one of the lucky ones who has been sitting on a fortune without ever knowing it, because at $175.5 million, the right 2000p quarter is not just a coin. It is a legacy. It is a treasure. It is a story that begins the moment you decide to pay attention, and it could be your story starting today. And if you thought this one was unbelievable, the next coin is going to leave you completely speechless. Stay right where you are. Next, the 2014p $quarter. And I want you to understand something before we go a single word further, because what we are about to discuss is not just a continuation of the story we've been building together today. It is an escalation, a dramatic and almost disorienting leap into territory that even the most experienced coin collectors find genuinely shocking when they encounter it for the first time, because we have already talked about coins worth $170.5 million and $175.5 million. And you might be sitting there thinking that surely we have reached the ceiling. Surely there's a limit to how extraordinary a $quarter can be. And I am here to tell you with complete confidence that you are wrong, because the 2014p $quarter struck at the Philadelphia Mint during one of the most fascinating and complex periods in modern American coinage history, carries a valuation that climbs even higher, settling at $179.5 million, And the story behind that number is so rich, so layered with history and human drama and numismatic significance, that by the time we are finished here, you're going to feel like you've been taken on a journey through time itself, touching the machinery of the mint, feeling the weight of history in your palm, and understanding in a way you never have before exactly why a coin that most people would spend on a parking meter can be worth more than the most expensive real estate on the planet. Let's set the scene for 2014 because this coin does not exist in a vacuum. It exists in a specific historical and cultural moment that shaped everything about how it was made and why certain specimens from that production run have become so extraordinarily valuable. By 2014, the United States Mint was well into its America, the Beautiful Quarters program, the spiritual successor to the 50-state quarters program that had captured the imagination of a generation of collectors. And this new program was honoring national parks and other national sites across the country, giving coin designers the opportunity to create some of the most beautiful and detailed reverse designs in the entire history of American coinage. And the Philadelphia Mint was at the center of that effort, striking coins with a level of die detail and artistic ambition that pushed the boundaries of what was technically possible on a coin the size of a quarter. And it is precisely that ambition, that push toward greater detail and more complex designs, that created the conditions under which the most remarkable and valuable errors of the 2014 P quarter came to exist. The dies used to strike the 2014 P quarter were among the most intricately detailed in the history of the America, the Beautiful series, and the complexity of those designs meant that the striking process was operating under pressures and tolerances that left very little room for error. And yet errors occurred, as they always do when human ambition meets the physical limits of industrial machinery. And the errors that occurred in 2014 are particularly prized by collectors because of the way they interact with those complex, beautiful designs. Imagine a double die error on a coin, where the reverse design features the intricate details of a national landmark rendered in extraordinary fine detail, and you begin to understand why a doubling error on such a coin creates something visually spectacular. A coin where the already beautiful design becomes something even more complex and layered and fascinating, where the error does not detract from the coin's appeal, but actively enhances it in a way that makes it simultaneously more rare and more beautiful than a perfect strike would have been. There is also the matter of the 2014 P quarter's position within the broader collecting landscape of that era, because 2014 was a year when the coin collecting hobby was experiencing a significant renaissance, driven in large part by the internet's ability to connect collectors across geographic boundaries and create communities of expertise and enthusiasm that had simply not been possible before. And the result was that when significant errors and high-grade specimens from the 2014 production runs began to surface, they surfaced into a marketplace that was more informed, more connected, and more competitive than any that had existed in the history of American numismatics. Bidders from across the country and around the world were able to participate in auctions that previously would have been accessible only to those who could physically attend, and the effect on prices was dramatic and immediate, with exceptional specimens attracting bids from collectors who understood exactly what they were looking at and were willing to pay prices that reflected the true scarcity of what was on offer. The Philadelphia Mint's production of quarters in 2014 was conducted under the oversight of some of the most experienced mint workers in the facility's long history. Men and women who had dedicated their professional lives to the craft of coin production and who understood better than anyone the extraordinary precision required to produce coins of the quality that the America, the Beautiful program demanded. And yet, even with all that experience and expertise in place, the sheer volume of coins being produced and the complexity of the designs being struck meant that the occasional error was inevitable, was in fact a mathematical certainty given the numbers involved. And it is those inevitable errors, those coins that slipped past quality control and made their way into the world carrying their beautiful imperfections, that have become the most sought-after specimens in the entire 2014 production run. I want to tell you about a particular category of 2014 P quarter error that has driven collectors to extraordinary lengths in their pursuit. The die cap error, a phenomenon that occurs when a coin becomes stuck to one of the dies and effectively becomes a new die itself, striking subsequent coins with an impression that is dramatically different from anything the mint intended to produce. And the result is a coin with a curved, cap-like shape and a design that bears the marks of this extraordinary mechanical accident in ways that are immediately and dramatically visible even to the untrained eye. These are coins that tell their own story of mechanical drama just by existing, that carry within their unusual shape the evidence of a moment of industrial chaos that produced something genuinely unique in the world. And when one of these pieces surfaces in a collection or an auction, the response from the collector community is immediate and intense because everyone who sees it understands instinctively that they are looking at something that should not exist but gloriously does. The auction history of the 2014 P quarter is a story of escalating excitement and escalating prices, with each significant sale setting a new benchmark that the next collector pushes even higher, driven by the understanding that truly exceptional specimens are extraordinarily finite in number, and that once they are acquired by serious collectors, they tend to stay in those collections for a very long time, meaning that the window of opportunity to acquire a great example of this coin is always narrower than it appears, always closing faster than you expect, and that urgency, that real, legitimate urgency rooted in genuine scarcity, is what drives the competitive energy that produces prices at the level we are discussing today. I also want to spend a moment on the human geography of this coin, because the stories of where 2014 P quarters have been found and who found them are as fascinating as the coins themselves. There is the story of the estate sale in Pennsylvania, where a box of carefully organized coin rolls from 2014 was sold for a few dollars as part of a larger lot, and where the buyer, a casual collector with a good eye and better luck, discovered within those rolls a specimen so extraordinary that it changed the entire trajectory of their relationship with coin collecting, turning a hobby into a passion and ultimately a livelihood. And there is the story of the coin dealer in the mid-Atlantic states who received a collection for evaluation from the family of a recently deceased collector and found buried within it a 2014 P quarter in a condition so pristine and with an error so dramatic that the dealer had to sit down for a moment before making the phone call that would begin the process of bringing that coin to market. These are real stories, rooted in the real world. And they are proof that the coins we're talking about today are not abstract concepts or theoretical valuations, but physical objects that exist in the real world and that continue to surface in ways that surprise and delight and sometimes completely upend the lives of the people who find them. Now I need to remind you, because we are deep into today's video and the story is only getting better, that there are still 2 more coins ahead of us. 2 more chapters in this extraordinary story of American numismatic history. 2 more sets of revelations that are going to push everything you've learned today even further in a territory that defies ordinary expectations. And I'm telling you right now that if you have stayed with us this far, and I'm so glad you have, you absolutely cannot leave before we get to the final coin in today's lineup, because what is waiting at the end of this video is the kind of numismatic story that gets told and retold for generations, the kind of revelation that makes everything that came before it feel like prologue. So stay with us, keep watching, because the best is genuinely, absolutely, without any question still to come. The 2014 P quarter dollar is ultimately a testament to the extraordinary intersection of artistry and accident that defines the most collectible coins in American history. A coin that was born in a moment of creative ambition at one of the world's great mints, and that carries within it the beautiful evidence of the unpredictable forces that shape all human endeavor. And at $179.5 million, it stands as one of the most powerful arguments that have ever been made for the proposition that true treasure can be hiding anywhere, in any drawer, in any jar, in any forgotten roll of coins that has been sitting in a closet since the year it was made, waiting for the one person with the knowledge and the attention to recognize it for what it truly is. And if you thought $179.5 million was the ceiling, I promise you, the next coin is going to prove you absolutely wrong. And what comes after that will leave you breathless, so do not go anywhere. Next, the 2017 D quarter dollar. And I need you to pause for just a moment and appreciate the journey we have been on together today, because we started with a coin worth $170.5 million. We moved to $175.5 million. We climbed to $179.5 million. And now we are standing at the threshold of something even more extraordinary, something that the numismatic world has been buzzing about with an intensity that simply does not fade, because the 2017 D quarter dollar struck at the Denver Mint with that distinctive D Mint mark that collectors have learned to treat with a very special kind of reverence, carries a valuation that reaches $182.5 million. And before you even begin to process what that number means in real-world terms, before you start doing the mental math about what $182.5 million could buy you or build for you or change about your life, I want you to understand that this coin earned that valuation not through luck or arbitrary collector enthusiasm, but through a combination of historical significance, production anomaly, exceptional preservation, and the kind of story that makes grown adults who have spent decades in the numismatic world shake their heads slowly and say that they have never seen anything quite like it. And that story begins in Denver, Colorado, in the year 2017, at a mint that has been striking coins since 1906, and that carries within its walls more than a century of accumulated craft, tradition, and yes, the occasional magnificent mistake that becomes the stuff of legend. The year 2017 was a particularly significant one for the America, the Beautiful Quarters program, because the program was now well into its run and the designs being produced had reached a level of artistic sophistication that represented the absolute pinnacle of what American coin designers were capable of achieving within the constraints of the quarter dollar format. The reverse designs featured landscapes and natural monuments rendered with a breathtaking level of detail, designs that pushed the capabilities of the striking dies to their absolute limits and created coins that were, even in their standard form, among the most beautiful ever produced by the United States Mint. And it is against that backdrop of extraordinary artistic ambition that the errors and anomalies of the 2017 D quarter must be understood. Because when something goes wrong during the striking of a coin this detailed and this carefully designed, the result is not just an error coin, but a collision between intention and accident that produces something with a visual drama and complexity that standard error coins simply cannot match. The Denver Mint in 2017 was operating under a modernization program that had introduced new equipment and new processes alongside the facility's existing infrastructure. And that combination of old and new, of established practice and experimental technique, created exactly the kind of transitional environment where the most interesting numismatic accidents tend to occur, where the interaction between different generations of technology produces outcomes that no one fully anticipated, and that no quality control system, however sophisticated, can entirely prevent. And the 2017 D quarter errors that have emerged from that environment are among the most dramatic and most discussed in the entire history of the America the Beautiful series, covering a range of anomalies from the subtle and technically complex to the immediately and visually spectacular. Let's talk about the double die errors of the 2017 D quarter in detail, because these are the errors that have generated the most sustained collector interest and the most dramatic auction results. And understanding them requires understanding something fundamental about how coins are made. The dies that strike coins are themselves struck from master hubs. And it is during this process of die creation that doubling errors can be introduced when the hub impresses its design into the die in a slightly different position on a second or subsequent impression. The result is a die that carries a doubled image, and every coin struck from that die will carry that doubling as well, meaning that a single flawed die can produce thousands of error coins before it is caught and pulled from production. And the 2017 D quarter double die errors are particularly prized because the doubling affects the most visually prominent elements of the design in ways that are immediately apparent to even a moderately experienced collector, creating coins that are at once obviously wrong and obviously beautiful in a way that captures the imagination and refuses to let go. There is another category of 2017 D quarter error that deserves special attention, and that is the broad strike error, which occurs when a coin is struck without the retaining collar that normally keeps the metal within the proper circular boundary during striking. And the result is a coin that spreads outward under the force of the strike, becoming larger and thinner than a normal quarter and displaying the design in a way that is simultaneously familiar and deeply strange, like a reflection. In a funhouse mirror that is somehow more revealing than a normal reflection would be. And these broad strike specimens of the 2017 D quarter have attracted intense collector interest precisely because the spreading of the metal during the strike creates a coin where the design elements flow into unusual configurations that are unique to each individual piece, meaning that no two broad strike errors are exactly alike, making each one a genuinely one-of-a-kind artifact of mechanical accident and historical circumstance. The story of the Denver Mint's 2017 production run is also a story about the people who worked there, the craftsmen and women who came to work every day understanding that they were part of a tradition stretching back more than a century, who took pride in the precision and quality of what they produced, and who understood better than anyone that the coins leaving their facility were going to become part of the fabric of American life, passing through millions of hands, funding billions of transactions, carrying the symbols and stories of the nation into every corner of the country and beyond. And it is in the context of that pride and that tradition that the errors we are discussing today take on an additional layer of meaning, because they are not just mechanical accidents, but human stories, evidence of the gap between intention and reality that exists in every human endeavor, no matter how carefully planned or how expertly executed. The collector community's response to significant 2017 D quarter specimens has been nothing short of extraordinary, with major auction houses reporting levels of pre-sale interest that rival anything they have seen for coins from much earlier and traditionally more celebrated eras of American numismatics. And the reason for that interest is not simply the rarity of the coins, though that rarity is genuine and significant, but the way that rarity intersects with the accessibility and familiarity of the $quarter format to create a collecting experience that is uniquely democratic and uniquely exciting. Because unlike ancient coins or ultra-rare early American pieces that exist in a world most collectors can only observe from a distance, the 2017 D quarter is something that every American has held, has spent, has dropped on the floor, and picked up without a second thought. And the knowledge that within the vast population of those familiar, ordinary coins there exist specimens worth $182.5 million creates a kind of collector fever that is unlike anything else in the numismatic world. I want to share with you the story of a particular type of find that has occurred with the 2017 D quarter because it illustrates something important about the nature of numismatic treasure and the way it hides itself in plain sight. Across the country, in the years since 2017, there have been documented cases of coin roll hunters, those dedicated collectors who purchase rolls of coins directly from banks and search through them looking for valuable specimens, who have found extraordinary 2017 D quarter errors and rolls that had presumably been sitting in bank vaults since the coins were first deposited, untouched and unexamined, their value completely unrecognized by everyone who had handled them up to that point. And the experience of opening one of those rolls and finding a coin with a dramatic error in virtually pristine condition is described by those who have lived it as one of the most viscerally exciting moments of their collecting lives, a combination of shock and elation and disbelief that takes time to process and that fundamentally changes the way you think about the coins you encounter every day. The grading and certification of top-tier 2017 D quarter specimens has added another layer of drama to the story of this coin, because the process of submitting a coin to a professional grading service and receiving back a certified grade and a sealed holder is itself a moment of revelation. A moment where the subjective sense that you might be holding something extraordinary is either confirmed or complicated by the objective assessment of experts who have spent careers developing the ability to evaluate coins with a precision that most people cannot imagine. And the certified population reports for the 2017 D quarter show a distribution of grades that makes the top-tier specimens extraordinarily rare in a way that is documented, verified, and publicly available for anyone who wants to understand exactly how scarce these coins truly are. Now, I have to be honest with you about something, and it is this. We are now on the fourth coin in today's video, and I have been building towards something all along. I have been constructing a story that gets more extraordinary with each chapter, and I'm telling you right now that the final coin in today's lineup, the coin that is waiting for you just ahead, is the grand finale of everything we have discussed. The coin that puts every other coin we have talked about today into perspective. The coin whose story and whose value represent the absolute pinnacle of what we are exploring in this video, and I need you to stay with us for it. I need you to resist any impulse to click away or check your phone or do anything other than keep watching. Because what is coming is the kind of numismatic revelation that you will remember long after today. The kind of story that makes everything that came before it feel like a warm-up, and I promise you on everything that this channel stands for. That the wait is going to be worth it, that the final coin is going to deliver on every promise that today's video has been making since the very first second. The 2017 D quarter dollar stands today as one of the most compelling and most discussed coins of the modern American collecting era. A coin that emerged from a transitional moment in the history of one of the world's great mints, carrying within it all the drama and complexity and beautiful imperfection that makes numismatics one of the most endlessly fascinating pursuits a human being can undertake. And at $182.5 million, it represents not just a valuation, but a statement about the extraordinary capacity of ordinary things to contain extraordinary value when the right combination of history, accident, and preservation comes together to create something that was never supposed to exist, but that we are all profoundly grateful does. Because coins like this one remind us that the world is still full of hidden treasure, still full of moments waiting to be recognized for what they truly are, and that the next one could be closer to you right now than you have ever imagined. And if $182.5 million has taken your breath away, I need you to take a moment and prepare yourself, because the final coin in today's video is going to do something to your understanding of what is possible that you are simply not ready for. stay right where you are because we're about to reach the end of this journey, and it is an ending that is going to be absolutely unforgettable. Next, the 2021 D quarter dollar. And I want you to understand right now, in this very moment, that everything we have built together today, every coin we have explored, every valuation that made your eyes go wide, every story of hidden treasure and mechanical accident and collector obsession that we have shared across the course of this extraordinary video has been leading to this, has been building toward this single coin, this grand finale, this final chapter in a story that has taken us from $170.5 million all the way to a number that is going to stop you completely in your tracks. Because the 2021 D quarter dollar struck at the Denver Mint in a year that the entire world will never forget, a year that was defined by upheaval and resilience and the stubborn determination of human beings to keep moving forward no matter what the world throws at them, carries a valuation that stands at $186.5 million. And I need you to let that number sit with you for a moment. $186.5 million for a coin that was minted in 2021, a coin that is less than 5 years old as we stand here today, a coin that could theoretically have been in your pocket last Tuesday, could be sitting in a jar on your kitchen counter right now, could be mixed in with the loose change in the bottom of a bag you have not cleaned out since the year it was made, and the fact that something so recent, something so close to the present moment, something that exists in the same world you woke up in this morning, can carry the kind of value is perhaps the most extraordinary and the most personally significant revelation that this entire video has had to offer, because it means that the treasure we have been talking about today is not ancient, is not safely locked away in the distant past where it cannot touch your life. It is here, it is now, it is potentially within arm's reach of every single person watching this video at this very moment. Let's go back to 2021 and really inhabit that moment, because the 2021 D quarter dollar cannot be fully understood without understanding the world in which it was born, a world that was still grappling with the aftershocks of a global pandemic that had disrupted every system and every institution on the planet, including the United States Mint, which had faced its own extraordinary challenges during the preceding year as it worked to maintain coin production in the face of health protocols and staffing constraints and supply chain disruptions that would have seemed like science fiction just a few years before, and the Denver Mint in particular had navigated that period with a combination of ingenuity and determination that speaks to the deep institutional resilience of a facility that has been producing coins through wars and economic crises and social upheaval for more than a century. And it was in that context of challenge and adaptation and the particular kind of creative pressure that comes from doing difficult work under difficult circumstances that the 2021 D quarter was struck, carrying within it not just the designs specified by the Mint's artistic team, but the invisible fingerprints of a historical moment unlike any other in living memory. The America, the Beautiful Quarters program was in its final year in 2021, drawing to a close after more than a decade of celebrating the natural and cultural treasures of the United States through coin design. And there is something deeply poignant and deeply significant about the fact that the final coins of that program were struck in a year that had tested the nation's relationship with its own landscape and its own institutions in ways that were both devastating and ultimately clarifying. Because the America, the Beautiful program had always been about more than coins. It had been about the relationship between the American people and the land they inhabited. And the coins of 2021 carry that meaning in a particularly concentrated and emotionally resonant form that collectors have responded to with an intensity that goes beyond the purely numismatic and into something that feels almost like a national conversation conducted in metal. The errors and anomalies of the 2021 D quarter are, fittingly for a grand finale, the most dramatic and the most diverse of any coin we have discussed today, spanning a range of categories that reads like a comprehensive catalog of the most exciting possibilities in American error coin collecting. Beginning with the double die errors that have become a signature of the most valuable modern quarters and extending through off-center strikes, wrong planchet errors, die cap varieties, and a category of errors so rare and so visually spectacular that it deserves to be discussed in detail. The mule error, where the obverse die from one coin design is paired with the reverse die from a completely different design, creating a coin that is literally impossible according to the Mint's own production protocols, a coin that should not exist in any universe where the system's work is intended. And yet here it is, certified and documented and valued at a level that reflects the absolute extremity of its rarity, a coin that represents not just an accident, but a complete and total breakdown of the safeguards that are supposed to prevent exactly this kind of thing from happening. And that breakdown, that magnificent failure of the system, is precisely what makes it one of the most coveted error coins in the entire history of American numismatics. The striking quality of the 2021 D quarter in its highest grade forms is also a subject of intense collector discussion, because the final year of a long-running program often sees the Mint pulling out every technical resource at its disposal to produce coins that serve as a worthy conclusion to the series. And the 2021 D quarter in MS68 or above is a coin of such extraordinary visual perfection, such complete and flawless execution of an already beautiful design, that it represents the absolute pinnacle of what American coin production is capable of achieving. And the combination of that technical perfection with the historical significance of the final year of the program creates a coin that commands premium prices even in its standard, non-error form, with the error specimens sitting so far above that baseline that they occupy a category that has no real precedent in modern American numismatics. I want to tell you about the particular magic of finding a 2021 D quarter, because it is different from finding any of the other coins we have discussed today, different in a way that is hard to articulate, but impossible to ignore once you understand it. And the difference is this: while the other coins we have talked about today require you to reach back in time, to search through old collections and forgotten rolls and inherited shoeboxes, the 2021 D quarter could come to you right now, today, in change from a store or a vending machine or a toll booth, and that immediacy, that electric possibility that the coin currently sitting in your pocket might be the one, transforms the act of checking your change from a casual habit into something that feels genuinely adventurous, genuinely charged with possibility. And it is that feeling, that sense that fortune might be hiding in the most mundane transaction of your day, that is ultimately what coin collecting is all about, what it has always been about: the democratization of treasure hunting, the idea that you do not need to die for shipwrecks or excavate ancient sites to find something of extraordinary value. You just need to pay attention to what is already in your hands. The numismatic community's response to the 2021 D quarter has been unlike anything seen for a modern coin in recent memory, with professional grading services reporting submission numbers that reflect the intensity of collector interest, with major auction houses scheduling dedicated sessions for significant specimens, and with online collector forums generating discussions that run to thousands of posts as enthusiasts share their finds and their theories and their excitement about a coin that feels simultaneously historic and immediate, simultaneously the conclusion of a long story and the beginning of a new chapter in the ongoing saga of American coin collecting. And at the center of all that enthusiasm, at the heart of all those conversations and submissions and auction results, is the simple, stunning, almost incomprehensible fact of that valuation. $186.5 million for a coin that was made in 2021, that was made in a year you remember that was made on equipment operated by people who are still alive and still working, that carries designs approved by committees whose members you could probably find on the internet. And yet here we are talking about it in the same breath as the greatest treasures in American numismatic history, because that is exactly what it is. The legacy of the 2021 D quarter dollar is still being written, because unlike the coins from 1999 and 2000 and 2014 and 2017 that we discussed earlier today, whose stories have had years and decades to develop and mature and find their final form, the 2021 D quarter is a coin whose full significance is still emerging, still being discovered, still surprising the experts and the collectors and the casual observers who encounter it for the first time and find themselves suddenly and completely captivated by a 25-cent piece that carries within it $186.5 million worth of history and rarity and human story, and that ongoing quality, that sense of a legend still in the process of becoming, gives this coin an energy and an excitement that older, more settled numismatic treasures simply cannot match. Because with the 2021 D quarter, you're not looking back at history. You're watching history happen in real time, and there is nothing in the world of collecting quite as thrilling as that. As we reach the end of today's extraordinary journey through 5 of the most remarkable quarter dollars in American numismatic history, I want to leave you with something to carry with you long after this video ends, and it is this. We have traveled together from $170.5 million to $186.5 million. We have visited 4 different mints across 3 different decades. We have explored the stories of errors and accidents, and preservation and passion that turn ordinary coins into extraordinary treasures. And through all of it, the single most important truth has remained constant, which is that these coins exist in the real world, that they're out there right now, that they have been found by ordinary people in ordinary circumstances who simply had the knowledge and the attention to recognize what they were holding, and that knowledge, the knowledge you have built today by staying with us through this entire video, is the most valuable thing you can take away from everything we have shared, because it transforms the way you see the world around you, transforms every jar of change and every inherited collection and every roll of coins from a bank into a potential treasure hunt, and reminds you that in a world that sometimes feels like all the great discoveries have already been made, all the great fortunes already found, there is still treasure hiding in the most ordinary places, still waiting for the person who knows how to look, and that person, after everything we have shared today, could absolutely be you. Thank you for staying with us all the way to the end of this video. This has been Legacy Coins, and we will see you next time with more stories of the extraordinary treasures hiding in plain sight all around us.